Yeah, thank you, Simon and Sebastian, for preparing the ground because we are in a similar segment of the market. And with that, yeah, happy to be here and to take the next 30 minutes to give you a short introduction on what we do, but more particularly what coinIX does, and then telling you why we believe that crypto, blockchain, this space is something that should take part in each and every person's portfolio. With that, I am trying to share my screen, and if that works correctly, you should see now our presentation, which we named accordingly, a bit of crypto and blockchain belongs in each and every portfolio.
Perfect. It works. The stage is yours.
Cool. One sec. We have a disclaimer, and so for me, it's the first time to present here. I'm very excited about it. As I mentioned, giving you an idea of coinIX, and then particularly putting a focus on what makes blockchains so special. And then in the end, I'll have some facts and members. Just briefly about me, I'm a lawyer by education. I spent some time in consulting and have been in financial services for most of my career. My most prominent job is being a founder and board member of Nordics, which is a regulated fixed income specialist portfolio management company. In 2017, interestingly, the same year when Advanced Blockchain was founded, we founded a second company called coinIX, which is focusing on investments in blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. And simultaneously, I'm one of the co-founders of an institution here in Hamburg, which is called Hanseatic Blockchain Institute. And I'm a member of the board of the Blockchain Association of Germany, which might illustrate a bit that I'm really into this topic. So why am I here today? And this starts back in 1998 when I did my MBA, and a friend of mine back then, it's 25 years ago, told me that he has just bought some Amazon stock. And frankly, I said, so what's Amazon about? Because at that time, this was the Amazon website, and they were just on the way to introduce tabs on their website. So it was pretty early. And my friend Barney told me, well, Amazon is going to set up an online bookstore. And I said, okay, that's smart. I mean, we were using the internet and we were looking into pictures and we were checking the weather forecast. We were using the internet for exchange of information, but not yet for transactions. And it took me a while to think about it. And then eventually I told Barney, sorry, I cannot believe that people want to buy books online. Because at that point in time, for me, buying a book was get into the bookstore, touch the book, open it, read it, and then go to the cash point and then take it with me home directly. With hindsight, yes, this was a mistake. Nonetheless, after 1998, the Amazon stock went down by 70% and then grew again. But I missed an opportunity back then, not because I was not aware of the technological opportunity. However, I was not willing or able to anticipate the consumer behavior, which is about, well, easiness, which is about digitalization. And I assume, hadn't I made this experience back in 1998, the next time I came across a technical innovation, I might not have acted accordingly. So the second event happened back in 2013, which still is quite early in terms of crypto, because a friend of mine told me about Bitcoin, and I felt like, okay, let's try it out. And I went on eBay, and this is my first quarter of a Bitcoin buy, which I did online via eBay at a price of €100 per Bitcoin. So I started quite early, and since then have been following this market, and I hope that this time, different from back in 1998, I'm early enough to partake in this potential development. Let me introduce you to coinIX a little bit. Advanced Blockchain earlier on explained that they have operations because they do consulting and so on. coinIX is purely about investing in blockchain and crypto. And we do it in three different formats. So we have a pillar of liquid crypto assets, e.g. we buy something everybody of you can buy as well. We have some Bitcoin, we have some Ethereum, but we have other altcoins like Polkadot, like Cartesi, and so on. This is one liquid part of our portfolio. On the very right-hand side, you see classical equity investments. So we pick early stage startups and we support them and invest in them by providing equity investments, classical kind of VC. And we have a bunch of companies, and we have about 25 participations in our portfolio by now. And then in the middle, you see something you might not be so familiar with because it's a mixture of both. That's the so-called early token projects, or SAFTs. SAFTs stand for Simple Agreement for Future Token. What we see more and more is that interesting projects that are related to blockchain don't finance themselves by handing out equity to investors, but much more by saying, come on, we are going to launch a token. And if you want to partake in our project, you are given the opportunity to invest early in a token that's not yet launched. And this is this SAFT agreement, and similar to what Advanced Blockchain does, we have quite a bunch of projects in our portfolio. Among them, you might see the graph, which was amongst our first SAFT investments back in 2020. And we belong to the small group of German investors that very early had the opportunity to buy a right to receive token at this point in time. And we invested about $50,000 into the project. And luckily, about 6 months later, there was a token launch event, and the token was listed on a token exchange. And the value, initial listing value of our investment was about $20 million, which has gone down in the recent market situation. We have sold some of them, but the position is still worth about $2.5 million, or even a little bit more. These markets are volatile. So we do all these different aspects of investments. And what you can see here, we started quite early investing in 2018. With regard to the liquid crypto portfolio, we only count the significant investments that have a relevant size. And over the years, we have been able to build up the portfolio, now having around 30 projects that are not yet liquid, and a bunch of about 12 liquid portfolio positions we believe have a super potential. We try to cover most of the areas, particularly where we see trends. And as you can see, currently about 70% based on market value is in liquid cryptocurrencies, and about 30% is in traditional equity or SAFT. And we have from gaming to decentralized finance to infrastructure and tokenization, for example, which we believe is a large trend. I'll come to that in a minute. Most areas that are related to this segment. What we do since the very beginning is that we track the so-called intrinsic value of our portfolio. by just adding the market value of all liquid positions we hold and compare it and add it to the acquisition cost of the equity participations. This value has luckily developed by about 60% last year, and since the beginning of this year, we are now at 360, if I remember correctly. And then you see down there the stock price, which usually trades at a discount. However, there is still a significant discount, and therefore we strongly believe that there is potential for the stock as well. Lastly, we're a small team. I met Omri back in 2016, and when I asked him about his experience in investing in the crypto and the blockchain market, he told me that he already had a 3-year track record. And so we partnered and set up the coinIX company from the very beginning with a clear vision to set up a company that would have listed stock to kind of build a bridge for a traditional investor that is used to buying something with an ISIN on it, however, being keen to participate in the potential of blockchain and crypto. And well, we care about the rest, and the investor only has a traditional instrument and does not need to set up a wallet or whatever. With that, let me try to take you on a short journey why I believe that not necessarily the Bitcoin, but the underlying technology has a huge potential. And Sebastian elaborated a little bit on the Bitcoin. For me, apart from the value appreciation we have seen, it's much more relevant to say, imagine that Bitcoin is based on a 8-page paper, which explains the idea. And Bitcoin is not a company. They don't have a CEO. They don't have marketing budget or a press and public relations campaign. Everything that has grown in kind of public knowledge about Bitcoin is just based on something which is community. It's a community of people that like the idea, that spread the idea, and by that, all of us by now know that there is a Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is about. And so the market acceptance is comparable to Coca-Cola, however, without spending a single US dollar on marketing. And I think this explains a little bit and illustrates the power of a community that believes in something. And the picture from The Economist, it was pretty early, and I mean, The Economist is quite often pretty early, but back in 2015, they already claimed that the blockchain technology might have extraordinary potential, which is larger than the Bitcoin itself. And that's something that strikes me and which I strongly believe. I don't want to go too deep into the details, and there are lots of different ways to explain what blockchain is about. What I particularly like is this thing which I have stolen from JP Morgan, because they say, oh, well, it's essentially a way to store data. However, it's a revolutionary different methodology to store data, because it does no more based on the idea of having a centralized database with someone being responsible for the data, but it uses two components. First of all, it's based on the idea of anonymous transactions, and then it's based on the idea of decentralized, so that all data is not stored at a single point, but it's distributed over a community, over a network, which makes the data immutable. And that's something that is revolutionary. And for now, I can't exactly tell you what will be the most successful applications of this technology, but it's something that's revolutionary. To illustrate that with an easy example, many of you may be familiar with this is a German version of a wire transfer instruction. And I was always wondering why the information on this paper is something that is not only stored with my bank and with the bank of the recipient, but also with all central intermediaries in between. They all keep a copy of not only the amount and the date, but the name of the recipient and the Verwendungszweck, the reason for making the payment, which does not relate is not relevant for them to know. And then compared here is a Bitcoin transaction, which, yes, indicates that there is a certain amount of Bitcoin that at a certain point in time and has been transferred from one address to another wallet address. However, everything else is, first of all, not readable, not traceable for someone who is not involved. And secondly, and that's the important thing, all this information can be easily given to other people, because without knowing who owns which wallet, you can't make use of this information. It stays confidential. And that's the basis for a decentralized data storage. And with that, I showed to you the picture of my eBay transaction back in 2013, which I might have photoshopped or whatever. And then I can tell you that this transaction, the transfer of 0.25 Bitcoin, is stored on the blockchain. And if you were willing and able to enter the respective code into your browser, your computer, everyone in this auditorium, would be able to track the confirmation. And what you may see here, this transaction, which was the transfer of 0.25 Bitcoin from a different person's wallet into my wallet, has 563 confirmations. It has been confirmed by such a large number of other participants of the Bitcoin network, and this makes it immutable. Even if I burn all my hard disk, even if I take all the cables out of all computers, if I melt down all computers all over Germany, this information will always be around and will always be able to be traceable. And that adds to our traditional view of how digital transactions work, because for the time being, you have no trust. You see a link, you click on it, but you can't be sure that this is really not manipulated. And with this new technology, we are able to have transactions, have information that cannot be manipulated, that is trustable. It results in digital trust. And when I'm asked, so where do you think this new technology is most likely to become relevant? In the past, I tended to say, well, there are different aspects and so on. Nowadays, I can clearly say, well, everywhere. Everywhere we are used to have some certificate, some stamp on it. This document was used by my grandfather when he was traveling through Asia. And this document helped him to get across each and every border because it had the largest stamp on it. And I mean, even though we claim that everything is digitalized in our day-to-day lives, the stamp, something where a person puts something on a piece of paper as a confirmation for something, is still very, very widespread. And blockchain is a technology able to solve that. let me come back to these three different steps of digitalization. Back in 1998, we had a purely information economy. We were able to look up information, which was great. It was a point in time where I could not imagine that an Amazon would ever exist, where people write and can do transactions. And that came across the Web 2.0, which was pretty disruptive for bookstores. It was pretty disruptive for travel offices. And interestingly, my friend Barney, who was an early adopter by buying Amazon shares, eventually ended up working in the C-level for Expedia. So he was kind of visionary enough to understand that the travel industry would be significantly disrupted by this new opportunity to transact digitally. And now we are at the forefront of a new dimension of digitalization, because we are not only able to read and to write and to interact, but we can execute. We can own something that is digital. And with the same easiness as we now transact via WhatsApp to send information, to send pictures and so on, we are already now, by using a wallet, able to transfer something valuable. With the relevant aspect to it, that when I transfer a picture via WhatsApp, I still have a copy and the recipient has a copy, and he can send multiple copies of that to other people. If I use my wallet, what's in there? If I send all or part of the tokens of the rights to something to someone else, it goes out of my wallet and ends up in his or her wallet. And this is a tiny little detail, as tiny as the initial idea of saying, well, why don't we connect our PC to a telephone and enable a process where we digitally exchange information instead of putting data on floppy disks and sending them by traditional royal mail. So sometimes the idea is pretty tiny. However, the outcome and the disruptive effect of that can be extremely relevant. What I have here is quite interesting, because it shows you the development of total internet users in gray from 1990 to 2000, which is a log scale because it's a hockey stick. And in red, what you can see here is 25 years later, the development of total crypto users, which is persons that have a wallet. And you can see that there is some comparability, at least. And if we were willing to say that this development is going to be extrapolated, then that might be an idea that we at some point in time will use our wallets as often as we currently use WhatsApp, because it's a new technology permitting to transfer information. I think this is something I can run through. In the very beginning, there have been many large banks that were extremely reluctant about particularly Bitcoin, and this has changed. The sentiment is extremely positive. And just briefly, as we come to an end, let me try to mention a few relevant trends that we believe are in the segment and where we invest in. Tokenization, the possibility to own a real world asset in a digital format and to buy it as easy as you find potential partners on Tinder, might be something that's really getting big. And in our coinIX portfolio, we have, for example, a company called Finexity, which is amongst potential market leader in permitting a digital buying process for an underlying such as real estate or diamonds or wine or some other rare things. The second mega trend we see is tracking and tracing, using the blockchain in industrial applications to track where the components, where a product, and where the ingredients of something are there. This is something where you can add a lot of transparency and credibility by permitting this data to be stored on blockchain. The third trend, deepen this is decentralized wallets. It's the idea that wallets are not only owned by individuals, but that machines can pay their bills by themselves and transact value. With that, just briefly, we have a relatively small balance sheet. We have a lot of intangible assets. This is the liquid portfolio. And then I think this is pretty basic. We are a small company. Market cap is below 10 million at least. However, we believe that in this trend we can be quite positive. The P&L, which is under German HGB, therefore we account income only if we realize by selling coins or position. 2021 was quite positive. 2022 we were not able because it was a winter phase, and we are now very positive about 2024. With that, these are the core details about our company. We are listed in Freiverkehr in Düsseldorf, and you can buy our shares in Berlin and Munich as well. Liquidity will hopefully be higher than in the past. And with that, I'm very happy and well, look forward if you have any questions, or please feel free to contact me if you want to know a little bit more about coinIX.
Yes, excellent. We have 2 more minutes for questions, so probably just 2 short ones. So given the remarkable rebound in the cryptocurrency market, how does it impact coinIX, and how will it change your investment strategy?
So, I mean, we are not directly dependent on that. If you really want to be exposed to Bitcoin only, you better buy a Bitcoin ETF or something like that. I personally believe that Bitcoin is kind of the dinosaur of the segment. It's the largest, it's the oldest, but maybe it's the first one to leave the space. And if you really think that there is a comparable evolution and development like we have seen in the early days of the internet, I think you better be diversified and you try to have different formats and you have a broad portfolio. And we like the development of the Bitcoin because the public sentiment towards everything that's related to blockchain is still pretty much correlated to the development of the Bitcoin. But eventually, I don't care so much about the Bitcoin. I do strongly believe that the underlying technology is something that will have a significant impact over the next 3 to 5 years, particularly on the financial sector. Let me add that briefly. As I mentioned before, the last wave of digitalization has significantly impacted travel offices and bookstores. Financial services, hardly. I mean, they implemented online banking, but you still have a bank account and you access it digitally. Internally, there's very little really digital. And with this new technology, we will have many more competing opportunities to earn money, to invest money, to transfer money without a bank. And this is likely to be a significant disruption. And if you want to take part in this, you should not invest only in Bitcoin.
Okay. So the time's up. Thank you very much.
Great pleasure. Have a nice day and reach out to us if you have any further questions.